Okay, so the kind of error that we had last time gives me an excellent opportunity to demonstrate another feature of Unity and C# programming um, that allows us to help discover what's going on when you have a runtime error. Because you need to be able to debug, and it's not the same as a syntax error, something that's precompiled that will show up an error message in the console for you. You actually need to do some instrumenting, which is basically the technique of putting in messages that show you what's going on in your code. But the thing is that um, Unity actually makes that very nice in that you can write to something called debug log and be able to get those messages that way. That also makes it easier to discover your debug messages later and hide them so that they don't show up in actual output anywhere in your finished code. Okay, so kind of a nice little feature that we need to do. Now, what we were seeing as far as behavior was that the delays between showing images was a little bit weird, and it wasn't showing as many as we expected because we expected to see at least 16 messages, or excuse me, 16 image changes plus more because that's what the code called for. It was supposed to loop 16 plus up to 7 more times, and we weren't seeing that many of image changes. So something is obviously going wrong in our code, and we'd like to know what that is. Okay, so we're going to make some small adjustments here. First thing we're going to do is I want to create a new variable called image number, and this is just an int. By the way, this is a good time to say, let's see, image number. I'm going to abbreviate that a bit. Image number. Ooh, sorry. There's a touchpad on my keyboard, and sometimes the cursor goes where I don't want it to. So this is a good time to let you know that inside a method, we don't use public or private. So you notice I'm just using int. I'm not using the public or private modifier here because it's private. It's part of by default, its scope is within that method. And so there's no need to put that in there, and actually it will break things if you try and specify. Okay, so we've got that set up. Okay, and then I'm going to, just because I want to know, I am going to, let's see, my loop limit. I want to know how many times that's going to loop. So debug, I can put it in there correctly, debug log, and then a message to myself, loop. And when you're doing these, you can just concatenate using the plus, and let's see, loop limit, oops, that was a lowercase l, loop limit dot toString. You see it there. That's a function because loop limit is an integer, and what I really want is I want the string that I'm going to put in there. Let's see, do I need anything else? Yeah, let's make it a little nicer looking message. So quote times. So that'll tell me how many times it's going to loop. Okay, that's what I expect, and I kind of want to know because, like I said, for some reason it was not looping the number of times, or it wasn't showing me the number of images that I expected, and so I just kind of want to see what's going on with that. Okay. And then I want to see what images it's actually dealing with. And so here, I'm going to debug.log. Okay. And I'm going to ask it to tell me, oops, disable, oh, that needs to be a string, disabling image 7. Okay. Otherwise here, I want it to tell me debug.log disabling image. And this time, since I don't have a specific number, I'm going to need to use that list index -1 dot toString. Okay. That should work. And then down here, debug.log. So I want to know what images it's enabling and disabling. Okay. Plus list index dot toString parentheses semicolon. Okay, so I put my instrumentation in, and that's kind of what I want to see to figure out what's going on with this code. So let's compile this, file and save it. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and run the project. Oh, I should show you. So when we run it, got some errors, so I'm not ready to go yet. So we look at the console, operator plus, and that is in script roller 39.9. So what's going on there? I typoed something, I'm sure. 39.9 debug loop plus loop limit toString plus time. Oh, whoops. I forgot to close the parentheses. Okay. Try that again and see if that doesn't fix the whole thing, because that's 39.9 for both of them. Yeah. Image number is declared but never used. You know what? I didn't use it. I was thinking I would use it in those debug messages. It's just a warning. It's not going to hurt anything, but since I'm here, let's go ahead and since I don't need that, I'll just go ahead and remove it. Okay. File. Save it. Go back to this. Oop. It's expecting some stuff here. So 3861. Again, I seem to have missed something. So 3861. Debug loop. Loop limit toString. Aha. Let me go check everything else here. So loop list index closes that one, toString, that one should be fine. Okay. Hopefully this time I've got it. Okay. And yep, we're all good. So our console's clear, and so now we can run this project. Okay. And we're ready to go, and I'll pull the lever. Okay. And you can see it's writing out to the console as it does stuff. Now let's go back and look at this and see what it tells us. Well, it started out, it's going to loop 18 times, and it started out with 7 and 0. Okay. And then 0 and 1 as we expected. But then that should have been disabling 1 and enabling 2, and it seems to have skipped 1. And then the next one should have been 2 and 3. Instead, it's 3 and 5. And 5 and 6 goes back to, wait, what? So it seems to be skipping some stuff and certainly not looping enough times. Okay. And this was actually the clue. So I just wanted to show you, though, that you can debug and see the messages that it gives you and use those to help. So now let's go back and look at what actually was in there. And I can tell you what the problem was, because looking at that once just made it immediately apparent that when I wrote this, I actually intended for this to increment the list index to the next one, and instead I'm adding the loop count, and so I'm skipping every time. The first one I go 1, which is exactly right. Then the next one I add 2, which is not the next increment. Silly me. I got ahead of myself. And so what I really wanted was this. Oops, get rid of that T. Okay, and I can leave the debugging in there just as a verification to or not. I can remove it later, and it is a good idea to remove any instrumentation that you do later on. Anyway, let's save this and let us do the project again, which was still running, so I'll stop it. Okay, and then I'll run it again this time, and everything's nice. Now, we're still going to get all the messages, but don't pay attention to the console. Actually pay attention to what's running here. Oh, and that looks so much nicer. Notice that it's clicking over. There's no hesitations. That was what we intended in the first place. So you can see it's actually doing what it's supposed to this time. Okay. And if I click it again, it'll come up with a different, well, it'll come up with a random image. It may be the same image. Okay. Or it may be different. So that was Bell. And this one's Heart. And so our code is now working the way we intended. So in the next video, we'll talk about how to turn this into a prefab and then make multiple windows that, or excuse me, make multiple slot windows that work together. So when I pull the lever, it operates all the slot windows. Okay, so that'll be the next video.